thank you so much for joining us. We know you've won 3 Emmys for your work on the X-Files, and we can't wait to hear about some of your behind the scenes memories. So you worked on the X-Files for many, many seasons. Do you have a favorite behind the scenes moment that you could share with us?
Oh my gosh, there were so many great moments at X-Files because it was probably my favorite show ever to work on. We worked really, really crazy long hours, but the creativity that we got to do was just so incredible. But a funny moment that I'll never forget was we had a scene, and I'm sorry I don't remember the episode, but they were going into a cemetery where there was a lot of children buried in plastic. Do you guys remember that? I don't remember. Okay, so yeah, so obviously we couldn't use background little kids and stuff. So in order, for me to make all the dummies would have been really not cost effective. So what we did is we bought dolls, like from Toys R Us, that were about that size, and then we decayed the dolls. And my key, Kevin Westmore, he was working with me, and he was standing outside the trailer, and the dolls just had like these beautiful round faces. So he was out there stomping on their heads. And this guy walks by and goes, "That's really sick, buddy." And that's something that just always stuck with me as being really funny.
So you won Emmys for some incredible episodes. I mean, Dead Alive is one that sticks out to me, obviously. What can you talk a little bit about the process? Like, I'm assuming the for Dead Alive it was David. I'm assuming, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
That you were doing his makeup for. Can you talk about the process a little bit, and how long does something like that take? Because the fans would like to know how it works.
Yeah. So on Dead Alive, the interesting thing about that too is the makeup took about 2 hours on that. And it was interesting too, because we kind of had a little laugh behind the scenes, because as we were doing it, David would want to be laying back in the chair, like with his feet up on the counter. So we were like actually like doing like Twister, doing his makeup at the same time. So then we took a really funny photo of one of the makeup guys laying face down, like with the newspaper on the chair. And David got a big kick out of that. He goes, "That's a good idea for next time." But he was a really good sport about it, and he really got into the process of looking different. So, but it took about 3 of us about 2 hours to do that. And then we always ask for the close-ups to be shot first, because that's when the makeup looks the best. And we had really super long hours on X-Files. So, but David was great. He didn't mind staying in the makeup at all. So he was really easy to work with on that.
Also did stuff like Thief and episodes like that. So, I mean, what were your longer episodes that you had to deal with? Where the makeup just, I mean, I think of an example of like Star Trek or Star Wars, where those guys, they would do like 14 hours for like background.
Yeah.
What do you have an example of something like where the makeup took an incredibly long time?
I do. First, I want to just talk about Thief for one moment.
Sure.
Thief was one of my very favorite episodes for the makeup. And the reason was, I know when the Emmys came around, Fox, back in the day, we're up against Buffy and stuff, and there's a lot of big monsters and stuff. And I said, I want to put up Thief. And they're like, "Really? The makeup's great, but it's not like a big monster thing." And we've done more, some episodes that had kind of monsters in them. And I said, but the fine detail of making Billy Drago look that creepy and that realistic, I loved it. And I said, I'm willing to risk not getting an Emmy because I just love this so much. And luckily everyone else loves it too. But when we were designing the look for him, I said, we have to make him scary, because people are more scared of people. I mean, we could have went the monster route. Like, he's just like a monster looking guy. But I thought he was creepier just having all these little weird things where I pulled his skin and added the eyelids. And it was so subtle that in person, people that knew him were like, "What happened to him?" And I'm like, "Makeup happened to him. He doesn't really look like that." So that was really awesome. And I just loved working with him so much. So anyways, but one of our longest makeups is when we had to skin the guys alive. And they were hanging in the butcher shop.
Yeah, was gross.
I'm so sorry. I am the worst one with the names of the episodes. So
I'm
forgive
blanking.
me.
I just watched it too. I'm blanking on the episode name,
Okay.
but I know
But
exactly.
you'll figure out which one it is. But so what we did with those is we actually made strips of muscle, right? All different. So we looked at anatomy and made strips and strips of muscle. And then we glued all of that on everybody. And then I'll tell you a little secret. I got Capellini spaghetti for all of the arteries and stuff. And I glued because it was really easy to bend and glue on and color. And those makeups took around 8 hours with 5 or 6 people on each guy. So those were really, really super intense, especially when we got to the eyes. So basically, when I do makeup on all of my shows, I don't use, and it's just a personal preference, so there's nothing wrong with it. I don't like using the full-on masks. I like using pieces and incorporating things so the face moves. To me, it makes it look more real. So we didn't have any like pullover things that the guys would wear, much faster. And also they look awesome, but I really wanted to use structure of everyone's face. So everybody that was skinned looked different. So that takes a little more time, but it always makes me happy at the end. And I just feel like it's a little more artistic for my liking. But the other thing is nice too for people who like to do that. I'm not knocking people, but you know what I'm saying.
You worked on the X-Files during the height of its popularity. What was that like for you, just being part of the phenomenon?
Well, interesting enough, X-Files made me like science fiction because before that I didn't. So when I got offered the job, I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I don't really like science fiction. Well, now I absolutely love, well, I always loved anything extraterrestrial, but it was just incredible. First of all, I have to just say, it was, and you've talked to people, it was the best group. I know everyone says that, but it really was like a family. It was, everyone cared about each other. It was so creative. People were just allowed to have their creativity. And we all just pitched in. I don't know, it's so hard to explain. It's like an experience that's like a once in a lifetime. And I've worked on other great shows since then, but there's just something so special about that show. And, we worked long hours, but it was so worth it because the end result was incredible as far as I was concerned,
I love that.
So yeah, I felt really blessed to be asked to do that.
What would made the X-Files a challenge to work on?
The challenge is to come up with the most creative ways to portray the characters in interesting ways and not just take the easy route out. And then Chris Carter too, he would, maybe the night before say, hey, I got an idea. Like we had the one episode where the guy ate, here we go again, I can't remember the episode, but he ate the diseases. So we just finished up the episode where the man was turning into the metal junkyard guy.
Yes.
Okay, so that was the previous episode. I remember that because they were thinking of getting an effects lab to do this big metal costume with effects, right? And Chris saw the photos of that and he didn't like it. So, I said, no, we're going to make it look like the junk's coming out of him and we did the little like
it was
hairs that came out, when he started turning into the junk guy. So that was really fun. It was really intense and it was a ton of work. Yeah. Not only was it a ton of work putting all the metal pieces on him every day, but then I had an entirely different crew that would come in like 2 or 3 in the morning to take it off because that would take like 3 hours to remove. So it was so many hours, many times that I couldn't stay to take it off or my team. So we'd have a cleanup crew come take it off. So the night before we're about to start this other episode with the guy that eats the diseases, Chris totally had a brainstorm of something different that he wanted. So I remember I went to his office and he goes, I got this idea. And it worked in the morning, now this is like midnight and in the morning, like 9 o'clock, we're going to start. And he goes, I want to do this. I know you can do it. You have Emmys. You can do it. I'm like, I went home. I just slept on it. And I thought, I have to create something in the morning, and he's trusting me to come up with something he's going to like. He's not going to see it before we film it. It's going to be what it is. And I remember they were so nice. They came to pick me up because they knew I was only going to sleep for maybe 4 hours. And my team was like, okay, what time do we have to come in? And I said, I want to be there for the first 2 hours by myself. And they said, really? I said, yeah, I just have to like get into it. I have to just see it. I don't want anybody to be, I just need to like try to be creative and get my head around it. And it came out really well. So yeah, that was pretty intense. And, and I was grateful, like Chris trusted me, but it was nerve wracking, but I knew I could do it. But sometimes I dream about makeup. So I'm like, I only have 4 hours to dream about this. I don't know if I have enough time to come up with something.
Having worked on the X-Files, what do you think it is about the show that sort of stands the test of time with the original generation that grew up with it, and then the new fans that it's picking up along the way with the reboot?
I think that everyone loves the unknown and the mysteries of things. And I think they really captured that really well without dating it too much. I think that it's kind of a timeless tale, in my opinion, from watching the old ones to now, because even like one of my sons, like a couple of years ago, because he was little when we did it, and he's like, that's such a great show. And so, even 20 years later, people are still enjoying it. So I think because we didn't go too much. I mean, if we did a period piece, we did a period piece within it. But, and maybe my memory doesn't serve me well, but I don't remember it being too trendy while we were doing it. Sometimes you go so trendy that it looks really weird in 5 years. I don't think they did that on that show. I know we kept even the female makeups, like on Annabeth, and Laverne Monroe did Gillian Anderson. Pretty, neutral, nice, but nothing too, this is like 1996,
So this last question we ask everybody, it's something we've been asking fans as well. We ask every crew, every cast member. If you could say something to the fans of the show from the last 27 plus years that the show has been around, what would it be?
I just would thank the fans so much for their support. Even when we were working on it, the fan clubs would get a hold of me. They were always so respectful. They just really enjoyed it. And they were always so supportive, and made us all feel really loved. And as a result of that, everyone even worked harder because no one wanted to let anybody down. So I want to just say to the fans, thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting us. And thank you for loving the X-Files like we did. That really made it nice. We worked so hard and it was appreciated. That made it really nice.
Yeah.
I'm really, really proud of that. And I'm so grateful that I was asked and given the opportunity to collaborate with a bunch of geniuses, basically. Seriously.
Well,
We did, but no, seriously, everyone like really just knew how important it was to take care of their own stuff, because the show was enormous. I remember when Robert Patrick joined the cast on his very first night, we were in an exterior, and he goes, I feel like I'm on Terminator. This is huge. This is like a huge base camp. Everything is like movie quality. And back in the 90s, that was really different than most TV shows. There's big shows now on TV, but back in the 90s, movie quality TV shows were rare. So they were kind of a forerunner in that, I think.